Well, the first big rehearsal is upon us, but will you be ready for the final curtain? Welcome back, everybody. Jason here. Let's talk Only Murders in the Building, Season 3. Today, of course, I'll be talking about Episode 8 titled Sitz Probe. At the start of the video, I will talk clues, suspects, Easter eggs, and theories, and in the latter portion, I'll give my thoughts on the episode. That being said, I will be talking major spoilers, so if you don't want it ruined for you, stop the video, head over to Hulu, check it out, then come on back, and we can talk about it. Well, now that we're past the spoiler warning, let's get back to sleuthing, shall we? I want to start things off by talking this week's Easter egg. Pretty obvious. Once the camera pans up to the rooftop, on one of those rooftops is a conductor representing, of course, the orchestra from this episode. Now, in an interesting twist on the prologue from the first episode of the season, we get things from Loretta's perspective. Using the framing device of a letter she's writing to Dickie, who is her biological son, it's revealed that she had Dickie and gave him up for adoption to a family who believed they couldn't conceive. Then, of course, they had Ben, and she's been keeping tabs on him ever since through a scrapbook. She, of course, discovers the scrapbook is missing and realizes that Oliver had taken it last time he was in the apartment. Now, the big thing about this episode is Sitz Probe. It's the first rehearsal with the orchestra and the cast, so they can work out all the bugs and make sure everything's gelling before dress rehearsals start. Mabel comes to Sitz Probe as well because she's investigating, and the trio has a bit of a powwow. Oliver is still adamant that his show comes first, but when Mabel reveals her prime suspect is Dickie, Oliver believes that because Dickie has no real place in the show, that he's a perfect prime suspect. Charles, of course, is trying to play peacemaker in all of this. Now, Sitz Probe is going well. During that time, everyone in the cast receives a notification that Greg has been released. He is no longer the prime suspect in Ben's murder, all thanks to Mabel. Of course, at this point, Detective Williams bursts into the theater with some uniformed officers ready to start this investigation. Charles, Oliver, and Mabel convince Detective Williams that the theater is the best place to hold these interrogations, just of course so they can get control of the situation and listen in on those interrogations. Howard comes to Mabel with a very important clue, and Charles and Oliver assure her that they're going to spy on Detective Williams and listen in on those interrogations. Charles convinces Detective Williams to use his dressing room and fumbles around trying to eavesdrop. Of course, Detective Williams is wise to what he's doing and kicks him out. Howard reveals that the clue that he's found was that the noise he heard on opening night coming from KT's office was the paper shredder. He believes that there was something very important that the killer was shredding and did not want anyone to see. So he decides to go into the paper shredder and reassemble it, asking Mabel to get him some tape so he can put the pieces back together. Loretta asks Oliver to come to her dressing room, where she confronts him about the scrapbook, and he returns it to her. He says that she doesn't have to explain anything, but she's believing that he doesn't trust her. He doesn't think that she's a suspect, and it reveals that Mabel's looking at Dickie. Throughout this time, Loretta's trying to talk to Dickie to try to reveal to him that she is his mother, and they've decided to meet up after Sitz Probe for dinner where they'll discuss everything. While Mabel's looking for tape, Loretta goes to Mabel, gives her some scotch tape, and probes her for information. It's at this time that Mabel suggests that killers try to insert themselves into investigations to steer suspicion away from themselves. And really, Loretta, who knows that Mabel is investigating Dickie, is trying to steer Mabel away from Dickie to no avail. It's at this point that Oliver bursts into the interrogation room to try to apologize for Charles's previous behavior, revealing to Detective Williams that he gave him a patter song to do, and it's been ratcheting Charles's anxiety up to an 11. So it's Charles's time to go on stage and perform his patter song, and Detective Williams is not going to miss this. Much to everyone's surprise, Charles actually pulls it off. He actually completes the patter song. Back in KT's office, Howard is having no success putting anything together as a clue of what the murderer might be up to, but after a pep talk from Mabel, discovers that he did find a few pieces that contained the date of opening night. She tells him to keep looking for pieces with this font, and whatever that is might be the clue that they're looking for. Of course, Charles and Oliver reveal to Mabel that this whole Pattersong thing was all a ruse in an effort to sneak the camera that Mabel brought from Taubert's equipment into the interrogation room so they could record all the interrogations. Finally, we come to Loretta's final number. Dickie reveals to her that he can't meet her at dinner because the police want to talk to him at the station, leading her to realize that he is their prime suspect, and she's not going to let that happen. Just before she goes on stage to rehearse her final song, Oliver reveals to her that he doesn't care about any of it. He just wants to be with her, and he loves her. As she's performing the final song, she drops her purse in front of Charles and Mabel, who are sitting somewhere in the middle section of the theater. They quietly get into her bag, find the scrapbook and the letter, and discover that the book is not about Ben, that it's about Dickie, and that's when they realize that Dickie is Loretta's long-lost son. Now, of course, while she's performing this song, Loretta sees that the police are taking Dickie away, and not wanting them to take him away, and willing to do anything for her son, she bursts out and confesses to killing Ben, putting poison in his protein drink, then after realizing he survived, pushing him down the elevator shaft. Burr tries to stop her from confessing, but she won't let him, and tries to stop the police from taking her away. In all of the commotion, Oliver's heart finally gives, and he has a major heart attack and falls to the floor unconscious while everybody gathers around him trying to get help and make sure that he's okay. I know I've been looking at Loretta this entire season, and one of the biggest things about it was that prologue, because in storytelling, when you do something like that, it means you're setting up a villain. And so I was very adamant it was Loretta for that very reason, but what I forgot and what I didn't realize until this episode was that in a murder mystery, not everything is what it seems. So by presenting that is like pushing the audience into that direction, and that's exactly what happened here. Now everybody's looking at Dickie as the killer, but I don't believe it's Dickie either. There's a couple things that kind of lead me to believe it's someone else. Now the first part is going back to that storytelling thing. Everything within a story has something to do with a story, even something that seems like it doesn't really have any effect on the story overall. For example, the Pickwick Triplets song. There's a part in that song where the constable says, "Has my inspection been too cursory? Should I look outside this nursery?" Meaning, in the context of the show, have they been looking too closely at the cast? Could it be someone else outside the cast who still had quite a motive to want Ben dead? Another thing that kind of got me looking in another direction was something Mabel had said when she said to Loretta that killers sometimes insert themselves into investigations. Now, who inserted themselves into this investigation very early on in the season? Taubert. I'm looking at Taubert because we kind of glossed over him really quickly, and he inserted himself in the investigation really fast. Clearly, he's trying to hide something, motive or opportunity or means. So I'm looking at Taubert as the killer. As for this episode, it was a really good episode. I loved seeing everybody back together again. I really enjoyed that Pickwick Triplets song. I've had it stuck in my head for the last week. It has been a delight. I really think this is a good episode and a solid way to push things further forward as we get to the final couple episodes in this season. I really, really enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to see where this goes from here. But those are just my thoughts on Season 3, Episode 8 of Only Murders in the Building. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you have any other theories, any suspects? Were there any clues I might have missed? I want to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click that like button. You want to see more videos, don't forget to subscribe. Click that notification bell so you get updates on all my future videos, especially my Only Murders in the Building videos. You can also follow my social media pages. Links are down in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.